Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Just Love book circle. I don't know what number it is, but we are engaging in a conversation. Number four. This is our fourth book circle since we have started this journey together of reading our way through what it means to be people who are inspired by faith to engage with justice. And so I want to welcome to this space three conversation partners this afternoon. For our friends who are in the South Pacific, it's morning. Sunday. How does tomorrow look? But for the rest of us who are here in the contiguous United States, I'm going to invite my conversation partners just to say their name, say a little bit about themselves and where they are. So I'm Dillis Brooks, and I'm currently in Southern California where it is nice and hot, even though it's fall. Yay! So, who wants to go next?
I'm Marcia Nordmeyer. I am in Lincoln, Nebraska, where it is going between drizzly and hot and muggy and cold and a couple minutes of perfect dashed into every single day because that is how we roll in the great Midwest. Happy Sabbath.
Yes. Yes. For the Midwest. Love it. Welcome, Marcia.
I'll go. My name's Jeff Boyd. I'm in Berrien Springs, Michigan, and happy Sabbath. It's Sabbath afternoon here in this time zone, um, and yeah, it's great to join you. Thanks for the opportunity. It's my first time here, so looking forward to this.
Welcome, welcome.
And I'm Sam, and I am here in sunny Seattle. Um, what are you laughing for?
You
Yeah,
said sunny and Seattle in the same sentence.
I know, but the world is changing. Here's the thing: climate change is a real thing. All right.
Really?
Yes, it is sunny. It is hot. I had a fan on. Dillis told me to turn off the fan because she could hear the fan over the mic. It's pain. It's pain here. It's actually hot. Um, but yeah, so that's me here in Seattle. Marsha made me feel very comfortable when she was describing her beautiful British weather. Um, it made me nostalgic even. Um, but yeah, this is it is what it is.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, it is so good to be in this space with all of you this afternoon. And thank you for being willing to engage. Our book for this month is by Shane Claiborne. It's a memoir that he wrote. There you go. Jeff Boyd putting it up. There we go. All our copies. I have a Kindle version of it. Boo. If I had found the Audible, I promise you I would have been rocking out with the Audible, but I went with the Kindle version. And so we're going to spend the next hour and a half just diving into the 10th anniversary of Shane's book. I remember when Shane Claiborne was a name that we were hearing all around. He was like part of the zeitgeist back in the like late 90s, maybe I would say, Jeff, if I'm dating myself.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but I remember how he just like called those of us who identify as Christians to task about how we were living. And so, this book, if you haven't read it yet, it's okay if you hear us talking about it because it's worth reading and rereading. And it's a
Mhm.
bold challenge to comfortable faith and a compelling vision for authentic community. So, I want to dive right in and ask my first question. Um, Shane calls us to radical discipleship in contrast to comfortable Christianity. And I'm wondering, how does his critique of comfortable suburban Christianity resonate with or challenge your own faith journeys?
I thought it was interesting how when he got back, I think it was from Calcutta, um,
Mm-hmm.
he talked about how he struggled too. He gets
Mm-hmm.
back from Calcutta and he's basically, living with the people there, helping people die peacefully. And
Mm-hmm.
then he comes back and he's working at a church that has a food court. And
Mhm.
he's like, how do we have a food court when these children are starving? They're
Mhm.
emaciated, and we have leftover salad every day. Like, what's going on
Mhm.
here? And then
Mhm.
he talks about his own transformation and how um, he kind of lets go of the I don't want to say the high horse, but his his initial shock of the difference once he gets to know the people and
Mhm.
their hearts.
Mhm.
So he
Mhm.
he kind of has a little grace for the
Mhm.
suburban Christians that he's ministering with.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I thought that kind of gave a little permission to have grace on ourselves too.
Hmm. And maybe we should back up a little bit and just say, how did Shane get there? Sam, this is a book you love to read. So do you want to fill us in with the background? Like, how did Shane get to Calcutta? What was going on in his life before that?
So
Mama T.
so first off, I'll say this that I'll say this book came at such a crucial time in my life when I was actually trying to go deeper in my faith with God
Mhm.
through seminary.
Mhm.
So it was powerful. Um, it was his famous fascination and wonderment of Mama T, Mother Teresa, and he tells this amazing story of how he did his best to try and contact her and failed miserably,
Mhm.
and tried his best to try and keep on connecting with her, and he essentially volunteered himself to come out and work with her in
Mhm.
Calcutta,
Mhm.
and and Mother Teresa was like, sure, if you come out here, it's gonna be pretty hard and stuff. And he's like, sure. And he said, and then she was just like, well, come then. Just like that. This random conversation over the phone. I think he was using a payphone or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
oh, he was using a payphone, yeah. And
$4 a minute, quarters.
yep, yep. And he was talking really fast because he was a broke student or something,
Uh-huh.
and trying his best to get everything in. And she just said, "Come." His next question after that was, "How will we eat? Where will we stay? What will we do?"
Mhm.
And I can't remember an exact quote. Maybe you guys can help me out. But she said something to the tune of, "That's not really your concern. The God who feeds the sparrow will feed you
My,
and will
my.
look after you."
Hmm.
And and the next thing was he just found the money to get on a plane and end up in Calcutta with no plans. Like, he is he is the type A's nightmare. um
Yeah.
it was crazy. And I'll say this, um I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I'm going to say it anyway. Everything that's wrong with the radical left is Shane Claiborne.
My,
Um,
my.
and
Interesting. I'll ask you to unpack that as we go along.
well, I'm being coy because here's the thing: Shane advocates for um, an extremist biblical radical
Mhm.
praxis of Christianity.
Mhm.
And he
Hmm.
argues for the case that we need to rebrand, or should I say, reclaim
Mhm.
reclaim the notions of radicalism and reclaim the
Mhm.
notions of extremism for the gospel.
Mhm.
Because when we hear those words in today's context, we automatically assume we're talking about excessiveness that is unhealthy.
Mm.
Hmm.
But what Shane Claiborne does, he interrogates comfort.
Hmm.
And that's what's the problem with the radical left. They're
Mm.
just trying to take away our comforts.
Mm.
And actually, Shane Claiborne wasn't doing that. He just exposes the Jesus who
Mm.
invites us to evaluate and ask ourselves the question, well, there really are only two options. You're either radically for Jesus or you're not.
Wow. Ouch. I don't know,
I
Marsha,
w-
Jeff.
yeah, with the part of the story that Marsha was commenting on, I wanted to say a little bit about that to underline Marsha's point, and to for me kind of bring out some of the significance of that point. That the reason he describes that him and another, I think her name was Brooke, maybe, the two of them wanted to meet with to go be with Mother Teresa, is that they were looking for a Christian for a real Christian, who they thought like who is really like. So in other words, they're looking around, we don't see anyone, and who is someone in the world? Mother Teresa. Okay, there's one person. Let's go be with her. And he comes back, and so he has all those experiences. He comes back, and I think what Marsha described, that experience going between, I think it was Wheaton and then Willow Creek, and that experience that he begins to open up. Wait, there are people who they're sold out for God here too, and he that line, I think Mama T gives it to him, that go find your Calcutta, and and I think it is a grace point in his life that it opens up his vision, like, oh wait, there are really people doing amazing stuff here in like I think you talked about Lawndale, CCDA is connected there, and I just think it really opens up, and that becomes, to me, an important theme throughout the book, is that this idea of what we're saying of like trying to fight through the comfort, our addiction to comfort, and to open up to other ways of interacting and engaging with people. And it was that experience that opens his mind, and then through the rest of the book, he starts telling all these stories of other people in other contexts who are doing this amazing work for God, and it just looks so different for everyone. So I want to talk more about that as we go along, because that became an important theme for me. And so I have some different points, but so I totally agree with Marsha. Like that was a pivotal time that opened up his vision to, okay, this doesn't just look like Mother Teresa. This doesn't just look like this one concept. Like, okay, God's doing a lot of things through a lot of people, and it's a lot of beautiful stories. So I think that was a beautiful
one I actually wrote down in my little handy dandy notebook. Nice. Yes, Calcuttas are everywhere. If only we have eyes to see. Find your Calcutta. And it's not, always dirt roads and shanties. It's, you know, depressed people. It's people who just need someone to listen. My Calcutta might be this library some days with, a student who just desperately needs someone to have a little compassion for them someday. I might have moments of my Calcutta right here or in the Sabbath school that I teach. You just never know when you might have a Calcutta moment in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I don't live in Calcutta, but I have Calcutta moments sometimes. And sometimes, I am the Calcutta moment to somebody else, and they're there for me too.
100%.
Yeah.
Super good point.
Yep.
There was this book rubs me the wrong way every time I've read it. 3 times now I've read it.
Nice.
Maybe I'm into masochism. I don't know. But here's why I'm so uncomfortable by what he presents, and I realized this at the end of the book. I'm the rich young ruler. Because Shane Claiborne essentially says, "All right, give everything." Because can we just be honest for a second and say that his responses to life are just not normal people responses. Like nobody, like him going to search for his Calcutta, physically getting on the payphone, calling Mother Teresa. No one's trying to call Mother Teresa. No one's trying to. But Shane Claiborne kind of he expresses the dynamic transformation of what happens when you take Jesus's words seriously, not literally. And I think
Okay.
what makes it uncomfortable for me is because if you're not careful, you can hear his entire book, and you will hear or read, uh, sell everything you have.
Yes.
Mm.
And but he doesn't actually say that. His
Mhm.
greatest response, I'm going to misquote, but he says something like, God doesn't want us to sell everything. He just wants you to respond.
Hmm.
However your response is, you have a responsibility to respond.
Right, like that. Oh,
I was going to say, for some of us, God asks us to sell everything.
Sure, and he supports that notion, but he
Yes.
wants to make the point to those who aren't called to sell everything, but to do something in Nebraska.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I felt a guilt trip this week when I bought some grapes and ate them because I did not pass them
No,
around.
but that's what he does. That's what the book is it's doing to you.
Yes.
Every decision
I
The
that you
want
make,
Desert
suddenly,
Fathers.
when he goes into detail about the sweatshops and the kids that are
yes.
brought forward to tell people this is what my master did to me, and he shows us the lashes on the
Yes.
back of his face and stuff.
Hmm.
You got nothing to say
Hmm.
to that.
I had grape guilt.
Well,
For those
Yep.
who don't know, oh yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead,
Go
Jeff.
ahead, Jeff. Go
Tell
ahead,
the
Jeff.
story, Jeff.
This grape story is that I think it was the desert fathers, mothers, one place received this gift of grapes, and they passed on to the next to bless them, and they passed on the next, till it came back around to the original, and then I think the story doesn't tell us what happened, but this idea that they were just sharing all the time, it's such a great blessing, let's share it, and how
Yeah.
passing
And
them
were they
on.
even good grapes by the end?
Yeah,
Had they
No,
rotted?
I hate the story because I hate that story because I would have been saying thanks for the grapes, and I would have just munched in.
So I think what's interesting is that what I hear you all saying, Marcia, you said you had grape guilt, and I'm thankful you didn't have grape shame.
Ah.
Mm.
Right?
Talk about that difference a little bit. Let me hear.
Because grape guilt has you going, man, I could have shared,
Mm,
right? Grape
Mhm.
shame says I'm a terrible person because I didn't share.
mm.
I'm tracking.
And that's what I hear you saying about Shane's writing, that Shane isn't trying to invite us into shame. Shane is inviting us into listening, right? For what's God saying to you about where you are and what you have. He really wants us to be uncomfortable with our comfort.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm tagging
Let me
you in.
build
Go.
on that. Yeah, I know we're getting some comments here maybe we should look at, but I definitely want to build on that because that was really important for me, what you just said. Because it's such a strong book, because it's so extreme and his stories are extreme, it does something in us. The stories, they make an impact, and like this grape story we're talking about. And so I appreciate that he goes out of his way to talk about, like, back in early Christianity, talks about they weren't all wandering homeless people. There were the people that wandered and were homeless, and there were the people with homes that would take them in and have that
Right.
hospitality. And the early Christianity had both of these, and they were both fully Christian. It wasn't only those who had sold everything were out wandering. It wasn't, they weren't the only ones who were true Christians, truly following Jesus, that there are these different ways. And I think that opens up that there isn't just one right way. There isn't just one right, like whether it's grapes, there isn't just one, like accepting a gift with gratitude is one way to respond to grapes, and sharing them with others is one way, and eating half and sharing a half is one way. Like that there isn't one way, that it's he keeps talking about the holy imagination, and like, and imagination tells us there isn't just one way, there's a different way, there's this range of ways. And I keep having to remind myself when I read it. So I read the original version like 19 years ago. So when I read it as a 30-year-old versus a 50-year-old, like it hits different, single versus married with a kid. And A lot of themes there. And like Sam, you said that not everybody goes to see Mother Teresa. Like, so Shane and I were born the same year.
Okay.
I did not call up Mother Teresa. Like,
You didn't, Jeff?
As strange as that is, and to see, his path, his trajectory, and how much it spoke to me, because we were not on parallel journeys here. Like, I was not in Calcutta, and he just, those extreme stories, like, they shake you up, they do wrestle you out of your comfort. But I appreciate he keeps coming back to, there are different ways to do this. There's the people at the home and the people that travel that need the home, and that's meaningful to me.
How do you think it will land for new readers to this? Because Jeff, you located yourself as to when it came out to where you are now, your different social locations. I know, as someone who grew up in a developing world, compared to my children who have grown up in suburbia, right, that I've had to create opportunities for them to live simply, because we're going to try to make it through the book, to live simply and to not have the same kind of access. And so I'm wondering, as you all are engaging with folks, or even for yourself, if you're willing to be candid, like, are there some practical barriers to what Shane is inviting us to, and in disturbing our comfort?
Yes, there's one huge practical barrier. You're staring at him right now. No, but that's the truth of what this book is bringing out. Like your possibility for transformation is proportionate to your selfishness when you read this book. And
wow.
And depending how uncomfortable you are, it will tell you about yourself.
Yeah.
And
that's for real.
And I think
because I'm selfish.
I'm selfish, straight up selfish.
Yeah.
Like, forget grape guilt. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's just so much. But Shane is trying to bring us back to not just doing, but why we do. Because I mean, he presents all the theology. I don't think this is a theologian's book personally. It's quite basic Bible, but he holds us accountable to. So if you call yourself a Christian, be a Christian.
Yes. Yeah, selfishness. I often say, when I prepare couples for marriage shows you how you're selfish. Children shows you how self-centered you are, right? Ooh. And so the two things, because who's going to pick up the baby? I didn't get time to play with I fed the baby the last 5 times. No. Anybody with me on that?
No, 100%.
Yeah. So marriage is going to show you that, I'm selfish, but when those children come, and if you don't have children, let's talk about taking care of aging parents.
Yeah, I found out how selfish I was because Dillis married me.
I didn't know.
That is so funny.
She amply prepared me, and then I got married and realized I wasn't prepared. But anyway, I'm on the journey. But I think.
Oh my gosh.
I think. How can people receive this book for the first time? I think they need to walk with Shane, even though Shane seems to be running, and have grace upon yourself.
Great grace.
And he says something along those lines, similar like that. He's it's when he's talking about community. He's like, listen, we're in this intentional community. We've been living together, and it's transformed. It's changed over life. But he says, you have to learn to walk before you can run. He's like, don't just dive into this
Mm-hmm.
thing, like what we're doing. Like we built up to it. We had mentors, we had people taught us how to do this, and I think he calls it flexing the community muscle.
Yep.
Like build up. And so you get, I forget what he says, but he talks about some like take steps. What's your next step in building community? Like I really appreciate that. It reminds me of the Bible verse when God is the story of leading the Israelites towards the promised land, and God says, "I'm not going to give it to you all at once. You'd have this problem, this problem, this problem. It's going to be in stages because you this and this. You'd have this danger. We're going to build here. We're going to, and yeah, so much that, I mean, if a person like when you read this book, where you are in your life, it's gonna hit differently. Like and to know like what part of it's going to hit you, like no, it's okay to take steps. And to me, one of the biggest like positives of the book, I mean, and there are a lot, like Sam, it's been an important book for me over the years, is that it just, the range of stories helps wake your imagination. So what does it look like for me? Like he talks about, it's a story about a plumber and it's a story about an engineer, and what does it mean for them? How, like for all of us. And so to take and say, okay, that was Shane's journey. That's how Shane responded to the call.
Right.
God, help me be sold out like that. Help me be devoted like that. But what does it look like for me? And in fact, in the part where I don't know if I can find this really quick, but in the back, there's a section where he added content, and he has one story about that. Maybe I'll look for it and try to bring it in. But yeah, let me just look for it. We can keep going and all.
But to your point, Jeff, you've got no excuse because you can see yourself in at least one or two or three of these examples.
Yeah.
So Shane is inviting us to live in community, right? And he explores back again the Desert Fathers, this idea of simply living simply. And he talks about wealth redistribution and economic justice. And so I'm curious, what's the difference between charity, which is giving to the poor, and justice, addressing systemic causes of poverty through Shane's lens? What stood out for you all? This idea of giving and addressing systemic causes of poverty.
At the back of the book, again, in that new section, he talks, it's like a Q&A or frequently asked questions, so it is. And someone asks, how do you not burn out in this? And he uses those two elements he just described. He uses those as some of the things that help. I mean, he lists a range of things, but he's saying if all you're doing all the time is service, you're going to burn yourself out. And if all you're doing is big picture, like advocacy or justice work, but you're not meeting any of the people that you're serving, like you're going to lose you're going to lose touch, you're going to be out. And so he's saying, bring these two things together. We need them. Let's do both. And that's part of what helps him not burn out in the work, is that this interplay or this dance between helping individuals is that give a fish, teach a fish, and he expands that. But to do both of those, that those help him stay in the game, that those have helped him stay long term. Like do only one, you're losing the other. So I appreciated that.
Marcia, did anything stand out to you with regards to this idea of who's responsible for addressing the issues that are systemic versus?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I have to watch myself where I am. Do all of us work in higher ed? We have to.
Yes.
We have to appear to be neutral. But I feel like in my work, part of what I can do is empower the people I'm around to say, yes, you can say something. Yes, your voice does matter.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of do my best to tell people you can say something. You can, look up somebody's email
Mm-hmm.
and send an email to a representative. Use the Five Calls
Yes.
app. Um, you know, here
Yeah.
are some postcards I printed out. I have a big old stack of them. Ugh, I can't reach them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's the empowerment of others for
Mm-hmm.
me that
Mm-hmm.
is my jam.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's a line. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when I'm at work.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who want to, I can show them
I love the music.
the way.
I think that's what
Yes.
goes on in Marsha's head while she's doing the justice work. So,
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I think in my particular context, Marsha, yes.
Mhm.
One of the things that I get to say to some people is resistance to systemic causes of poverty is you finishing this degree so that
Yes.
you can then
mm,
do something, right? So
right.
for
Yes.
some people, that's what I'm saying. Finish this
Yep.
degree, baby. Get
Mm-hmm.
through this,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and when
And
you're
what
done,
I'll
join the
yeah.
ranks.
And
Mm.
what I say to some people is, if you don't think you can finish all 4 years here, talk to your academic advisor and see if you have enough credits under your belt for an associate's degree. Get
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just
Mm.
leave school with a mountain of college debt
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and, qualifications to work retail or fast food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't don't fall into a hole.
Mm-hmm.
That's not gonna work
Mm-hmm.
for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems
Um,
very supportive and logical, which is not really Shane's gig. Um, because
Fair enough.
come on, let's be honest, Marsha. If Shane was your student, do you honestly think that he would be listening to? Like,
no,
my guy's ready
no,
to drop everything and just kick out. But I think the difference is he was so resolute and he knew that he didn't know everything that God wanted for him, but he knew it
yep.
wasn't A or B or C.
Shane reminds me very much of one of my student workers, um, who has contributed to the tinsel that I am growing from my head right now. And this is a student whom I love so much, probably the kindest person on this campus. But my goodness, this boy is going to, do stuff to my life expectancy. Um, but but Shane was that kid, just don't wait around for
Mm-hmm.
things to work out. Go do it now.
Mm.
Very impulsive, and I think were I, a mentor of his, I would have thought he was kind of cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
I would have offered him a cup of coffee and some Twizzlers and given him a hug and said, "Go be like Jesus. You got this, buddy."
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then been very proud to put his book on our library shelf and said, "I knew that guy."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. But what I hear you saying is um what Shane felt called to was countercultural
yes,
Mm.
very much so.
in the most radical
Very
sense.
much so.
And I think, you know, there are some of us that God will call to be as radically countercultural.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Um,
Jesus was.
yes,
Mm. Mm.
Could you imagine how frustrated his mother was?
my goodness. Yes, I do.
Hold on a minute. Can I just
She's
ask,
gonna
because this is
go.
this is what I felt from the book is that Shane was calling everyone to be radical Christians.
Mm,
but we assume radical fits a certain skin or
Mhm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
But there is radical Christianity in wealthy suburbia.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
There is radical Christianity um, um, somewhere in Calcutta or
Mm-hmm.
where, like, radical Christianity exists everywhere. And I think he was just, you asked the difference between what is it, giving to charity
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and serving. The difference is Shane knew his why, and
Mhm.
his why. So he presents both cases. There's no problems in giving to charity. Give to charity if that's what you feel that you're called to do and that's what you can do at this moment. Great, fantastic. But don't do it in the name of validation. Don't do it in the name of your holiness. Don't do it in the name of you trying to pat yourself on the back to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
God is proud of you."
Mm-hmm.
And he also talks about how giving can actually be something that gets in the way
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
you actually making a difference in someone's life and being the kingdom hands and feet
Mm-hmm.
of Jesus.
The
So
fruits of
he
the spirit
deconstructs
are
all of that.
not tax deduction receipts.
Right.
My
Yep.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I
Wow,
felt
nice line.
like I'm saying, Shane is. This is why I feel uncomfortable because he verbally beats you down with a soft and kind spoken voice,
Yeah.
and then
With
has
an
a little giggle at the
Appalachian
end. I
drawl.
I listened to the audiobook. He has this giggle at the end, which is just like, and it's just like it's judgmental, but he's so anyway. I'm working through my emotions. But you have nothing
Sam
to
has
say to him
big
because
feelings.
he's presenting truth, but
Mhm.
he's not downplaying the responsibility that Jesus has left us.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you're thinking that Shane is really sold out to for us if we say we're Christians to be like Jesus.
He wants us to be extreme, whether that extremity is here or there, poor
Uh-huh.
or rich. Whether
Uh-huh.
he's still I think he's an advocate for extreme Christianity. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the stories he tells, which was fabulous. I can't remember exactly the backdrop. Maybe you guys can help me. Where he tells the story of this convict that was running away from a police or someone who was trying to catch him, and
Oh,
and they're running through an ice field or something, and then it falls through the
It's an
ice.
Anabaptist story.
That's
Mm-hmm.
and
it,
he
the
went
Anabaptist
back.
story.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to save the one who was chasing him to incarcerate him. He dived into the ice,
Mm-hmm.
saved him, and
Mm-hmm.
they still burned him to the stake
Mm-hmm.
after all of that. And the guy was trying to advocate for him, but he didn't win, and then he got burnt to a stake. Like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of extremist Christianity story is
Mm-hmm.
not a story that most of us relate to. However, in the current time and age that we live in,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is just probably a perfect story of how relevant this is. You know, the other day I logged on to the Five Calls app that you were talking about, Marsha, and I was like, I'm going to call my representative. I'm going to let
Hmm.
them know this is unacceptable. And then, do you know? I chickened out. Do you know why? Because I have a
Hmm.
green card. And having a green card, I thought, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't bring much attention to myself. Because right now,
Word.
as a brown skinned immigrant with a green card who decides to, but extreme Christianity simply does not care about the barriers that are in the way and just depends totally upon Jesus.
Mm. I appreciate your vulnerability, Sam, in sharing just how you're wrestling with this. And what I'm teasing out and what you just set up so nicely for us is what Shane is calling us to is to be like Jesus. Because isn't this what Jesus did?
100%.
Right? This is I almost feel like remember back in the day we had those little what WWJD
Mm-hmm.
bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like what Shane is inviting us to do is to really start thinking in every aspect of our life, what would
Mm-hmm.
Jesus do?
Mm-hmm.
What would it look like? I don't know. I want to move to another critique of Shane's, but I don't know if anybody has anything they want to add to this section before we move on.
Let me give a short quote. I found part of this. It's in the back section. So in the frequently asked questions, do you think everyone needs to live like you? And I'll just jump. So it says, there's an unmistakable call in Scripture to not conform to the patterns of the world. But just because we're called to be radical nonconformists doesn't mean that we all end up doing the same thing. Nonconformity doesn't mean uniformity. And so he goes examples of Matthew and Zacchaeus. They were two tax collectors, and they both respond authentically to Jesus, but it's different. They don't look the same, even though they came from the same background. And so if people read that and use Shane's life as an example of getting out of your comfort and trying to live radically for Jesus, but then do it in your own way. So Chris Blake says, and it's mediated to me through my father-in-law, that what would Jesus do? Turn it around. What would Jesus have me to do? Like that's I'm going to answer that differently. You're going to answer that differently. And
that's
but
crucial.
if we'll respond to that radically, I think that's what Shane is calling us to.
Which is harder because most of us who have a deep relationship with Christ, we kind of know what God is asking us to do.
I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what he wants me to do, and I'm resisting it some days.
I think we can all understand Jonah.
I had a talk like this just this morning. I teach the preschool Sabbath school class across the street at my church. We sat down on our Bible story blanket, and I said, everybody take your finger and just draw circles around your ear. Why? No reason. Just do it. Okay, now everybody take your foot, draw squares with it. I said, you know what? This is what it's like when God tells us to do things that we don't understand, and we're going to do it anyway. And then we talked about how God helped the Israelites bring down the walls of Jericho because it didn't make any sense to them at all. And, you know, in that, I want to say, rare moment of obedience, they did what they were told, even though it didn't make an ounce of sense. And, you know, we should hope that we would have the amount of faith to, you know, draw circles around our ears, even though it doesn't make sense.
7 times in the Jordan.
Yes. I did. Yeah.
But I think my little 2 and 3-year-olds kind of get it better than I do most of the time, because they're just like, oh, well, if God tells us to do it, we're going to obey him. And I'm just like, no, but he wants me to like be nice to these people who are wrong. So they
Unless
get
you
it.
see the kingdom like these little children.
Yes.
That's why I hang out with them when I go to church, because they get it and they fill me. They fill my heart with joy.
Goodness.
They are my tiny homies, and we prayed for Chris Blake today.
Yes,
we did.
So Shane also critiques the institutional church, right?
Oh my days.
So here's the thing. Shane is a prophet in the likes of Isaiah, Jeremiah, you know, the prophets that just call it like it is. And so he critiques the church, simultaneously calling for both its renewal and its transformation. And he envisions a church that looks more like the early Christian communities described in Acts chapter 2. So can we sustain our institutions and at the same time respond to this prophetic call to be radically different than the culture, to be these radical disciples?
I'm going to let the others speak first, but let me just drop this. Who let Shane into GC session?
Mercy, I'm gonna sip my water.
I felt exposed as an Adventist.
Yeah.
Very exposed.
Like,
okay.
Go on. Yeah, do you want to unpack that a little bit for us?
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
talk through
So
that.
I think one of the most prophetic things that Claiborne was able to do was to delineate what our obsessive focuses have been as an institution. And as an Adventist, he
Mm-hmm.
called it out. And he says, we are
Mhm.
so far concerned with orthodoxy, right
Mercy.
believing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said we would do better if we balanced the scale a bit and also talk about orthopraxy.
Orthopraxy.
And he was, which is right doing. And before we start talking about Sabbath keeping and vegan eating, this, that, the other, that's not what he was on about. He was talking about the most difficult thing in the world, which is loving your enemies, which is finding yourself in spaces you don't even want to be. Today we had
Mhm.
a speaker come, and we were talking about immigration in church, and she said the
Mm.
question was, so our normal circles, we don't engage with refugees, with asylum seekers, with asylees. And so how do we connect with them? And her response was golden. She said, where do you shop? Go shop. Go shop in the places where the floors are dirty, where where the food is cheap. Go shop in the places where there are coupons and food stamps. That's where you'll find them.
Mercy, God.
And in my head, I was like, I don't want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
It's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Uh, I think when we all spend some time and look at how far removed we are, from folks who are struggling day to day, like just to make ends meet. When we think
Mm-hmm.
about, do we know people for whom the things we're reading about in the news is their lived reality?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, yeah,
You're thumbsing up. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Mhm.
and I think this is where Shane calls us out, and I'm putting myself in there. It's like you need to be uncomfortable if you're not aware.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone in your circle agrees with you, thumbs
Mm.
ups everything that you have to say,
Right.
quotes you, um, then then you're not about transformation. You're not challenging. You're complicit. This is a word that I use often, that I feel invited to by the Spirit all the time, is to identify if I'm complicit in my own abuse or if I'm
Mhm.
complicit in somebody else's abuse,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Wow.
Because sometimes when I don't speak up, when people say things around me or do things around me that are just not the Jesus way,
Mm.
um, I sense Spirit saying, "Hey, use your voice, use your,"
Mm.
Mhm.
and it may cost you your job.
Mm-hmm.
Truth.
Team the late T. Marshall Kelly used to say, "It takes everything to serve the Lord."
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I hear Shane inviting us to and challenging us to, and as members of the church,
Mm.
right, to also be willing to say, "Are we majoring in the minors?"
Mm.
And
Yeah.
and what was Acts 2? What would it take for us to live the Acts 2 way, y'all? What would it take?
Hmm.
Phew, that's a big question. It would take a breakdown
The
of
spirit
institutions.
of
It would.
institutions. Interesting.
Mhm.
Le- Sam, let's take that idea and let's put that with Dillis's original question. Um, I'd like to hear from both of you as I think through this question. What do we see as the institutional risks to responding to what Shane is pushing us to? What are we able to name some of those specific risks or themes?
Yeah, I
Um,
can name one that Shane named.
okay.
He identified the more institutional we get or
Mhm.
the larger we become,
Mhm.
then our outgoings to external things outside of the church go down to help people. Go
Ah,
down.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
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 and more of our money goes into
Preserving.
securing and preserving
Yes.
the institution's
Yes.
livelihood, and so
Fact.
we end up becoming uh, a self-sustaining
Mm-hmm.
community
Yep.
that does mission on the side.
Yeah.
My God. That is
We
solid.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
we give more to the conferences than to the poor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
100%.
He
And we
actually makes a
also,
case for. Oh, sorry, Dillis. He
no, I
actually
was,
makes a case. Oh, go for it. He makes a case for the higher you grow in your income, the more percentage you give.
Mm,
That's what we should do.
Well, that's how Shane
Or
lives.
mm.
I don't know. He was just making a case for you should just become more of a giver, the more richer you become.
Tithing
yeah.
brackets.
Mm-hmm.
tithing
Yeah.
brackets, nice.
Mm-hmm. 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 I think, I have heard over the years of people who are generous beyond, Paul says it's blessed to give than to receive, right? Like when you give, you
Hmm.
receive, right? That's how it works. And yet institutionally, we're preserving, and Jesus calls it out. What good is the salt if it's just sitting in the salt shaker?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It serves no purpose whatsoever.
Hmm.
And when my concerns um are about preserving me and mine. And I'm not saying don't nobody go say that I said you shouldn't care about your family. That's not what I said. What I'm saying is we need to be willing to give away. We need to be willing to the Acts 2 church, y'all. Um, let me tell you the most radical thing that I think I want to recommend to anybody who's to all of us on the call if we're not doing it already, and then to anybody who will watch later. How many times are a week are you eating a meal with people that don't live in your house?
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I were talking about it this morning. We've lived in California now 20 years. And Jeff and Marsha, I don't know if you know this, but I'm married to a pastor.
Mm.
And he was asking me this morning about, how people relate to me. And I said to him, I said, Del, I think people think I'm busy. People think I don't need support. They'll come to me for support, but they're few and far between people who just really come and say, "Hey girl, how you doing? What's going on?" Or
Mm-hmm.
For
let's
you.
go grab, yeah, for me. And that's okay. It's just what it is. And I was lamenting to him this morning. I said, I don't know if this was a consequence of being from the East Coast. And then I said, no, this was actually what my mother modeled for me. Like I grew up in a home where my mom enjoyed being a hostess. And so we would have people over, right? And I was not raised in the Adventist denomination. I grew up in
Hmm.
the Anglican faith, Episcopal here in America, in the Caribbean, Anglican. I grew up going to church, and at least once a month we would go to somebody's house and we would have a meal.
Mm-hmm.
When I joined to the Adventist church, it was the same thing. Like we'd be over somebody's house and we would be having a meal. I've been Adventist long enough. I've lived on the West Coast long enough, and people don't. We're not. So yeah, that was my question. How many people? How many times a week are y'all? I'm gonna do a Shane. How many people are y'all having a meal with that don't live in
Well,
your house?
well, you know my wife, Dillis.
I
So,
do.
so she cooks for England and America and Ghana and
Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
So I have no choice.
I'm
People will eat our
gonna get
food.
on that plane to Seattle.
It's good eating. I'm telling you right
You
now,
oh,
it's good eating.
you will cry of tears of
Yes.
joy.
Yeah, it's good eating. Yeah. But the Acts
Wow.
2 church people broke bread together. People
Hmm.
were saying, what are y'all doing? Because you're together, sharing meals,
Mm,
sharing your resources. And the scriptures say that the Spirit added to them,
Hmm.
Mm.
right? But as long as we're trying to preserve our buildings, And listen to me. I understand risk management. I understand. I understand. I understand. And yet I'm like, Shane's calling us out.
Mm.
Yep.
Our buildings are closed.
Mm-hmm.
How many of us drive into the community where our churches are because we don't live there anymore? And it's only open 1 or maybe 2 days a week.
Yeah, at
I think
most.
that's
Yeah.
what, I mean, talk to me, Shane. Talk to me, Jeff. Talk to me, Marsha. What are you thinking
Yeah.
about
So I
this?
was yesterday, Friday night, I was with a group of people having a meal, and the theme was, and I want to tie this into an earlier question, people's desire for community. And what I want to tie this into is what Shane talks about and what we mentioned earlier about suburban life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the need to change that to middle class life. Because I haven't lived
Yes.
in suburbia very much.
Uh-huh.
But I've lived in rural. Like I live on the edge of Berrien Springs, which is just vineyards and orchards from here. And
Uh-huh.
most of my life, except for like a year and a half in Seoul, like South Korea, so hardcore urban, I haven't lived in a suburban context. I really have lived in rural and semi-rural, but I could relate to everything he said. Like it's the middle class experience. Like I don't want to call, yeah, and so I could definitely relate to it. And the people, the isolation. Trevor Noah was talking about like the richer you become, the more you have to buy your community. You have to buy all the things that used to be in the community. Now you got to pay for every single thing. And I think that's, yeah, even if you're not in suburbia, I relate to the experience.
I love that. I love that I love that you locate us there, Jeff, because I think for more of us, it's not only it's social class is and if you become an Adventist in at least 1 or 2 generations, guys, what happens to us? We move up the hierarchy because we educate you and we give you access. So we move further up, and the further up we go, we get far removed. Brian Stevenson says, and because Marsha, I want to tag you in. I'm going to shush my mouth. Brian Stevenson, who wrote Just Mercy, he says, proximity to suffering creates empathy. Proximity to suffering creates empathy. So when we are not proximate to people's lived experiences, it's very easy. It is very easy. I'm guilty of it. It is very easy to say, that's not my problem.
I'm sorry. I have to chime in before you, Marsha. You just said something, Dilys, that boiled me over. We would rather pray away the suffering,
my God,
than be proximate to it.
Yes.
We lose the opportunity of God manifesting his power because we choose prayer as an avoidance
chaplain,
rather than stepping into the mess of the proximate to experience it. Okay, I'm done.
I just want to say, I see your CPE at work, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well done.
Or would we rather write that ADRA check because the poverty couldn't possibly be in our neighborhoods? It's somewhere else. It couldn't be in Lincoln, Nebraska. There's no poor people here.
And not only if they're poor, why didn't they do something? How everybody has, because isn't that what we're dealing with right now, guys? Isn't this what we're hearing?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. That's the propaganda.
Correct.
Yeah.
That
this morning,
your fault. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
My son was listening to Brinkman Adventures, and they quoted the line about watching the ants and how diligent they are, and the line was about, if you don't work hard, you're going to be poor, And I said to myself, like, Victor, there's a lot of other reasons for
No.
property. Let's whoa. I do not want you looking at someone. You meet them, you think they're poor. I'm gonna presume they didn't work hard. No. Like that message. I mean, it was just direct. Like, let us slow down here. Let's and hopefully, and one thing I hope we can talk about before we're done is something, Dillis, you mentioned earlier about experiences that you've led your kids through. I hope we can talk about that, because the first time I read this, like, it was all about me. This week, so I hadn't read the new version, and reading it with his commentary this time, I was just, the thought through it all was my son, and I read some of the chapters to him, and it was just like, okay, how do I this in parenting, and this, and yeah, we try to, we live in this rural setting, and we try to expand, like, see the world, but maybe we can talk more about how we pass this on to the next generation later.
Yeah. Well, let's then segue to the fourth section, and then we can do some application, right? Faith, politics, and prophetic witness. Here we go. Discomfort. The discomfort level just went up. So in this 10th anniversary, Shane reflects on how his message has evolved and remains, relevant through changing political landscapes, and he advocates for a prophetic witness that transcends partisan politics. Would you agree with that? Right? Like, he's saying, I want you to go beyond what the options that you have. So how can Christians maintain, oh my, that was your original?
This is sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Jesus for president. It's
okay.
When I respond, I'll start here, but just
okay, all right. So how can Christians maintain prophetic witnesses, being a prophetic witness in polarized times, without becoming irrelevant or compromising core convictions?
Information literacy and critical thinking.
Mercy. Say that again.
Say that one more time.
Marsha. Say it again.
Information literacy and critical thinking with an understanding that you are not immune to propaganda.
Woo!
I'm putting it in the chat, with an understanding that we are not immune to propaganda.
That's been my mission this year, working in the university library, is to help our students with information literacy, critical thinking, and to realize that they are not immune to propaganda, especially as we enter political turnover season. I truly think critical thinking can save the world if it is learned and applied, and if we're humble enough to be wrong.
Wow, humble enough to be wrong.
So let's unpack that a little bit, because there is an anti-education movement afoot, ladies and gentlemen.
Gee, I wonder why.
Right? So, Marsha, I hear you going, we need to learn, we need to become literate, and yet we are in a season where anyone who is educated, I shouldn't say anyone, I'm a researcher, I know better than that. In some situations, it seems that there is a backlash against literate people, learned people, and an absolute pushback against critical thinking. And not just critical thinking, critiquing as a result of critical thinking.
Yes.
So how do we get around that? Can we?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm having a library fair on Thursday about it, but I'm making it Star Wars themed to make it fun. May the Source be with you.
Yes.
Oh,
I made a lightsaber.
Yes. One library fair at a time, Marsha. Let's go.
I love it. Oh my word.
Cards right here.
Yes.
You could have someone come out as God and like, I am your father.
Yes. Yes.
He is our father. And
Yes,
he
he
gave you a
is.
brain. Please use it.
Yes. Jeff, you were gonna say something. I saw you pull out your book.
Yeah, so let me do two here.
Yeah.
So I grabbed the copy, my copy of Jesus for President, just in case this would come up. So a friend of mine gave this book to me, Eric Stenbakken, and then later, 1 year for my birthday, I went to Detroit and saw Shane speak and got him to sign it. And how he signed it was, "Enough donkeys and elephants, long live the lamb." That
Right.
was, yeah.
Come on.
Wow.
Come
And
on.
if you put that line with the what he said here at the end of this new version, so he has a question on page 358. It says, "Do you think Christians should be involved in politics?" And it's a couple lines here. I don't want to read too much, but the real question is not do we engage, but rather how do we engage? If we are to love our neighbors as ourselves, then we care about legislation and laws and policies because they affect people we are trying to love. But the danger is to limit our politics to a party or a candidate rather than focusing on Jesus. Our hope is not in a party or a candidate, but in Christ. And then goes on to make a connection between the word vote and devotion, the root there, and to be, we've already cast our ultimate vote with God, and now we're trying to align with anything that moves the world toward the kingdom of God. So our allegiance is with God, with the Lamb. How can we influence, because these laws, because politics affects people's lives in just every way, how can we be involved? So it really spoke to me. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Hey, and the Eric Stenbakken who I mentioned, I don't know if you're watching or not, but he actually is an Adventist, and he took the picture. He went out and was with Shane. He took the picture that was used in the original version.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, Eric was so
Yeah.
Eric had spent time out there, and
There we go.
so it's fun
There's
that there was an Adventist
Yes.
connection there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My
I think
library didn't have the 10th anniversary edition. So.
we'll fix that. May the Source be with you.
I love
And
that.
also with
So
you.
creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sam, were you gonna say something?
You can go first if you want.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, and I don't know if you'll ever watch this, but when we were in seminary, my chaplain at the time, who became my colleague, Dr. Tim Nixon, I remember him telling us that all of us who were clergy should be registered independent. And he said, because you should be able to critique the donkeys and the elephants. And I remembered him also talking about MLK Jr. in that same conversation, and lifted up other leaders. And I never forgot that. If I'm truly following this Middle Eastern rabbi named Jesus, then I'm really taking seriously. This is where I'm definitely in alignment with Shane. Because loving my neighbor has to be a priority over than loving myself and protecting myself. Right? Loving my neighbor. Like it's because that's what Jesus represents, the love of neighbor. Jesus comes to be human, to show us how to be human. And there is no one Jesus doesn't eat a meal with. There is no one that Jesus turns away. His harshest criticisms are for the established religiosity of the scribes and Pharisees and teachers of the law. And yet he even lifts them up as an example of how we should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, these jokers are solidly sold out for what they believe. Like they are solidly in, right? And he lifts that up and he says, you know, if your righteousness is gonna be like unless it's like there, right? Like so he doesn't, you know, push anyone away. And so
Hmm.
if this is who I call my savior and call my Lord, then how could I be doing backstrokes and floating in the deep end of this kind of love and grace and not extend it to somebody else?
Wow. Wow.
Because I think ultimately that's what Shane is calling us to, is this radical understanding of Messiah Jesus.
Mm.
So now as we're in this socio-political moment, I keep looking around and going, who's talking on my behalf? Because that's not what?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Who are these people? Because that my Bible don't read like that.
That's the propaganda.
There you go. And as you said,
Yeah.
Marcia, we need to be critically engaging. And so here is my plug. Everybody read your Bible, not just the parts you like.
Mm.
We have to start going back to the word. Read the Bible. And they don't pay me to do this, but the Bible Project has tons of videos, tons of podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're all for free
Mm.
to help us make sense of scripture in our postmodern world.
Mm.
But we gotta read. Like we can't say we know this Jesus and we've never met this Jesus through the word.
Mm.
There's a reason it's called the armor of God.
Come on. Come
Yeah.
on.
Mm. This question kind of ruptured me, the whole idea of maintaining prophetic witness in polarized times. This isn't the first time a demagogue has risen to power in society in human history.
Facts.
Truth. Yeah. Facts.
Like, this is so normal for history that you could literally follow this play by play.
Sir.
And it just so happens it's recently been documented. And that tells me something about what God allows to happen for his people to navigate.
Mm.
And it tells me, when we're talking about being a prophetic witness, we recognize, as much as we're trying to fight the system and, you know, break away from it, and I get that there's definitely merit in that, we also have to kind of rise up and recognize we're born for this moment, for this time, not another time, this time. And if that be the case, God saw it fit that someone like you, with your cultural perspective, with your skin, with your ideology, with your upbringing, be it problematic or dysfunctional, is fit for service because the King of Kings is leading you. And you know, maintaining prophetic witness requires us to recalibrate and recognize that God has called us, and we shouldn't lose hope or heart, because we know how the story ends. We know what happens. And I don't think God necessarily has called us to succeed in upending evil. He just asks us to be faithful.
Yes. Yes.
I think he also asks us to resist, though.
No,
Because
I'm not.
Faithful
I'm
in
not speaking
resisting.
against resistance. 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that we will be successful in that resistance. Being faithful is resisting and stepping up, and we don't resist because we're gonna win. We resist because that's the nature of our Christianity,
Come on.
and that's the God that we serve.
Hmm.
And you know, if if Christianity, as is articulated by the current administration and many other evangelicals out there,
Mm,
Jesus wouldn't be a Christian.
Lord have
no,
mercy, no.
absolutely not.
This is why I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. Read your Bibles, everybody. Read your Bibles.
Hmm. Yeah.
We have to read our Bibles. I think Shane is inviting us to go back and take another look at Jesus.
Yep.
Take a third look at Jesus. Take a fourth look at Jesus. To just keep reading and rereading and seeing how radical. Do you understand that Jesus didn't have any money?
Hmm.
Like, Jesus didn't
Or
have a
a home.
house. He was unhoused.
Hmm. Hmm.
He was crashing at Martha's house.
Hmm.
I'd
And
take
then
him. I'd house.
right? Not only did he crash at Martha's house, when he came at least 12 deep, minimum.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Every time Jesus showed up, there was some kind of party happening. What if that was what people were saying about us? That every time Christians showed up, and definitely the Adventists, you were going to have some food, you were going to have a good time, miracles would happen, signs and wonders. Come on.
My wife could do it, but she would need some time to prep.
I notice how you keep volunteering your wife. You are going to help her, sir.
Oh, I know I'm the sous chef. I already
Yeah.
know that the stress is coming down on me to prep and chop and yeah.
Nice.
But
Nice.
yeah, down for the movement.
Yeah.
He
But
multiplies the food. It's okay.
it's okay.
Mm.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So listen, y'all. We're getting ready to. We're getting close to our time.
Hmm.
And I'm aware of Jeff's question about how we give this to our children. And so I'm wondering, as we wrap and we move towards wrapping, what's a practical? We've already said. I'm gonna say it for the third or fourth time. Read your Bibles, everybody.
Mm.
And we can't just pick the parts we like.
Mm.
And you know, Sam, you said something that made me think about the way that some of us as Christians are trying to get out of dealing with the stressors of this world by saying Jesus is coming any moment, y'all. We're getting ready to go to heaven, and I'm like, the kingdom of heaven is now,
Hmm.
right now, and so I think one takeaway for me from this conversation with y'all and reflecting on Shane is I, Dillis, need to continue to make sure every space that I inhabit is an embassy for the kingdom of heaven.
I love that language.
Yeah? Like this is the embassy.
If we're
right here.
ambassadors, then this is the embassy.
This is the
Yep.
embassy,
Yep. Yep.
right? Every that's what I want it to be. This is a place where you'll be welcome. Just show up.
And you're safe in the embassy.
You're safe in the embassy.
Ooh.
I don't care what you did, just come in because
Ooh.
that's how I've experienced Jesus. So, what's a takeaway for each of you as a result of engaging in both our conversation and Shane's invitation to this radical way of living?
So towards the end of the book, something really ruptured me. As someone who's born and bred an Adventist and been in the system and now works in the institutionalized system, it's so easy to get bitter for all the things that we have done wrong and doing wrong. And sometimes you can make the molehill your quest to expose the dysfunctional behaviors of our church, and it can get really hard. It really can, and that bitterness can just seep deep within you, existential crisis, all manner of things. There is one quote that Claiborne quotes Saint Augustine at the end of the book that just destroyed me. It was the church is a whore and she is our mother.
My God.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when he quoted quoted Augustine, I was like, shoot, because we never signed up for this to be perfectly functional, and we're broken people coming together trying to deliver a perfect gospel with broken mouths and broken fingers and hearts, and we're hurting people that in the process of preaching this gospel and being the gospel, we hurt others in the process. And God still chooses that as a method, apparently,
Makes no sense to me.
because 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 your screw up is not more powerful than this God's power. And he still chooses us because the collaboration with sin has way much better of a return of relationship than just to do it himself. He would rather do that because he gets to win a beautiful relationship with you and me.
Mm,
He would rather do that.
mm, mm,
Let me quote a line here that is exactly, Sam, what you were just saying, that he says, one of the great mysteries of our faith is that the God of the universe does not want to change the world without us. Sometimes when we ask Jesus to do something about the needs of our world, Jesus throws our prayers back to us and invites us to be part of the answer to our prayers. Like, yeah, that despite our flaws, our failings, the sin that still is deep in here, that he keeps calling us, like, yeah, you're still the ones I'm going to be working through. So
Yep.
wow.
Yep. What my takeaway has been, just, reading this in the last few weeks of reflective, consumption of media, is that remembering what the fruits of the spirit are and are not, and being especially mindful of that. One thing I reminded my little tiny Sabbath school toddlers of today is I just looked at them while they're sitting on their little blanket, looking up at me, picking their noses, whatever. And I said, look, God is trusting us with his reputation. And that is a big job, and that is a hard job. And we are important enough to him to be trusted with that. And
Wow.
we get to go do that. And I can't think of a better thing to do with our time than to be entrusted with God's reputation.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the
Yep.
fire that's coming at the end.
Hmm.
How do we give this to the next generation? Jeff, it's in my from my perspective. Did you have something you wanted to say?
I will, but please, yeah, go, please.
Yeah, from the experiment that are the humans that I've been gifted to raise. Um, put limits on things. You don't get everything. I grew up, what I bring from my own culture. I had to get to a certain age to get certain things, and we did the same thing. So just because everybody has it doesn't mean you get to have it. Rites of passages are huge. When our son was old enough when we finally gave him a phone, he was told the phone did not belong to him. He was a steward of the phone. The phone is our phone. He had to sign a contract, and he understood that at any time that phone would be taken. There was a place that phone had to be. Um, when it was time to go on social media, my husband is a youth pastor by training, and one of the things he would drill into our children, and he says it to his youth, is that the media is always trying to teach you something. Your job is to know what it's trying to teach you and what does the Bible have to say about it. And so developing within your children this ability to be a critical thinker, it's not avoiding the world, it's engaging with the world and being able to critically engage and say, well, this is what Marcia Nordmeyer just said to us about understanding the propaganda. right? You need to, you need to be literate, think critically, and then be able to discern. And then the final thing I would say is just model the thing that you want them to do. You know, the things we've talked about, radical hospitality, like our homes should be places where people can come and break bread with us.
Yep.
Right? It's can we go serve other people? What are we doing to serve others? And the one thing I wrote down was, and we got to broaden our circles. You know, everybody who comes to our table or comes to our circle, we shouldn't always agree with. We need to have people that we disagree with, people we don't understand, people that make us uncomfortable.
Yep.
So that our empathy will grow, right? Because we will be proximate to their experiences.
Back, that theme, proximate to it, close to it. Can you see it? Can you experience it?
Don't worry about the logistics. Just God will take care of it.
What?
He'll
Listen,
give you a place to sleep. Yeah.
100%.
Just go to Calcutta.
Where is your Calcutta?
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Dillis, to quote Nathan Brown, do the thing.
Do the thing.
Mm.
Do the thing. Do the thing. We keep waiting for somebody else. We're the answer, you know. Jeff, did you have a last word you wanted to share before we close out?
Yeah, I just so many thoughts are running through my head. I want to comment on what you were just saying. I was trying to find a quote in here that was about a book. I can't find it right off, but it was lining up with what you said. And I want to go back to a theme that I talked about earlier that's just been critical for me. So these two pieces, one with the next generation, with our kid, he's 10 now, and I wrestle with how to introduce him to this journey that I've been on and tried to wrestle out how to do, and now it's like, how do I do it as a parent? And we take him, we do a lot of volunteering with him, that we're like in different. This morning there's a big beach cleanup series around the Great Lakes, and so we went out to be a part of that. So we were out picking up cigarette butts and little pieces of plastic, and somebody had this whole confetti thing, so just trying to get him into it. We but a lot of it is on the service end. That's what we can do. There are a lot of different service things we can do. The closest thing we took him to a vigil against gun violence, and in a local interfaith event, and a few different things. But we took him, he was in a stroller. We took him to Black Lives Matter marches up in Grand Rapids, and different. That's the closest thing to an advocacy thing that we've done with him. Almost everything is service. It's like, okay, how do we, there's the community, and there's service and justice advocacy, and just so many pieces. How do we do it? So, and but that ties into one other thing the other theme that I want to finish with, and that not only does our response to Jesus look different between us, but it looks different over the stages of life.
Yes.
And I think we need to give each other grace that how you live it out might be different. How I live it out, how you live it out, and how I live it out now versus another time in my life. When I was with the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice, almost all of our volunteers were either university students or retirees. They were the ones with time and energy. It was just, there were a few others, there'd be a few families, but those are people that have the capacity, but the people who were just trying to make it with raising kids, just dead tired, and let's have different expectations for them and what this looks like. And so grace for each of us that we're doing it our own way. Let's encourage each other. Let's call each other. Sometimes we have to call each other out, but then also through our stages. And it's the same for Shane. Now that he's married, he doesn't live in that original house. Him and his wife live in another one. It changes over time. So to give each other grace in stages of life, personalities. For me as an introvert, I love this concept of community and work on it, but let me tell you, I would be so exhausted if I tried to live community like Shane does as a
Mhm.
hardcore extrovert. Like,
Mhm.
so we all gotta just figure out our way of how to
100%.
be responsible to this
100%.
call. So.
Absolutely. I appreciate having you, Marcia Nordmeyer from Lincoln, Nebraska, Jeff Boyd from my alma mater town, Berrien Springs, Michigan, Sam Gungaloo from sunny Seattle, and for sure me here in hot and humid Southern California. I'm like, what is with the humidity, Lord? I'm over it. Thank you for engaging this Sabbath afternoon. And I would say to anyone, if you have not read The Irresistible Revolution by Shane Claiborne, please read it. Yes, he will snatch your edges. He will come for the wig. He will take off all the hair off your head and maybe your chest. And yet he's doing it with love, because what the world needs now more than ever is the radical, sacrificial love of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And as we just said, we are the ones who are the hands and feet of Jesus.
Right.
So let's go do the thing.
Yep.
Let's go do the thing.
Mm-hmm.